Alright, now we want to go over water, partly because it's kind of next alphabetically, but it's the last true metals before water, so it's the last true element, and we kind of need to talk about all of the true elements before we can talk about metal. So we'll start off like this. I'm water. We still have to think about what water actually is, what water does, and when you work with it here in this real world that we're talking about. One thing you might realize if we start talking about water or think of is that water is a liquid, and liquids fill up containers, whatever container you happen to pour it into. So if we start thinking about the situation as the container and the liquid to fill it up as us, then this means that water has an uncanny ability to understand the situation that it's in, but it's limited to what they're currently doing. So if you ask a question like, who are you voting for? And they respond, I don't know. They are being serious. In that situation, they might have already thought that they don't need to think about politics. They've already gone over every possible outcome and scenario, but political discussion may have been backburnered because they didn't see it as a viable candidate for discussion. And so that way they have more energy and more of themselves to discuss other things that might be a little more important to the current goal. Water personalities make people seem malleable but manipulative. So one day water can believe in God, where the next day they're not going to. And it's all dependent on the current situation that they're in. If they believe that believing God will help them in their overall goal and current situation, they will appear to believe. But if they don't think it will help, they'll appear not to believe. Fortunately, they actually have a really strong core, so their beliefs don't actually change with every situation. They just pretend that they do. But this core is really, really well hidden in the situation, and you can hardly ever see it. So, they're constant, but they're a very well kept secret. This leads us to another one of water's personalities, which is creativity. Water can develop really unique views on life, even at their core, that are, very, very balanced or shockingly extreme. They're usually into politics, because of this. They have this manipulative drive in them, which is shocking because we're like, oh, they don't talk about politics unless they happen to be there. But this drive that they have that makes most of us politics is not selfish at all. Water has trouble realizing themselves and the problems that they're facing and all of that. So because they have problems with themselves, they usually focus on assisting everyone else until they're as dry as the Sahara Desert, and literally they're just exhausted, and they just kind of collapse and be like, okay, I'm done with you guys for a little bit. They thoroughly believe in peace, but as we've seen, peace really doesn't happen very often, and so they kind of have this desired work that they pick out to really cut out for them. It's a tough one. Okay, in regards to the Greek charts, water is a really cold element. It's not that they don't have emotion and everything. They have emotion, but they're very, very logical, and although that underlying, that core passion that they have can be scary strong, it's really, really well hidden, so nobody really sees it. Um, Water takes its time to move through through problems and think about things, and they move through it at a very appropriate rate, and if you look at just how long it takes them to make a decision, they're relatively quick about it. The air and fire could go a little faster, but they're faster than Earth at making the decision, but longer at taking it to get to the goal. So that's what makes them slower, is that overall they take forever. Water can be destructive, and one of the most destructive, but it's a self-destructing kind of destruction. Their cold personality kind of pushes people away, and everyone else gets hurt, and then they get hurt because of it. But it's mainly because water hides their emotions so well that you don't know that they love you. So you're like, you don't love me. Water's like, but okay, I guess. You think that. And they're also a really low element. They're not just like logical and seemingly emotionless. They're really, really low. They will think of things above themselves if the situation calls for it. But if the situation does not call for it, that's not what they do. Politics is about as high as they get, and of their own volition, their own choice. Everything else is because the situation requires them to. So if if air starts talking about aliens, water starts talking about aliens. But if air never brings it up, water doesn't go there. They don't move fast, and they don't like to move out of their container. The other elements are the ones that kind of move water from here to there to this to that and they'll get comfortable again, but they like to be in their comfort zone. Water doesn't usually discuss taboo topics or controversial topics because they're really not important to water. Not to their health. No one likes discussing them anyway, and it usually causes more problems than it fixes. So what's the point in wasting energy on something that will either get you nowhere or worse, point you in the wrong direction? Okay, so that's kind of water in a nutshell, and now we have to talk about what water does with the other elements, what we see. So the first thing is it's not destructive with other elements. It's kind of self-destructive because of that, but you're not gonna get hurt unless you want to, really. Air and water, they have this one-sided relationship where water is in awe of air's capabilities. It's like air is this bigger version of themselves, and they're shocked and they love it, and they think it's amazing. And air looks at it exactly the same way and says, you are beneath me. And so water kind of goes, I know, but you're so amazing. Can't I be your friend? And if air can kind of like step down and be like, hey, yeah, that's a great idea. I could use someone like you. Then they're great friends, but until air, it's all air's fault on this one. Until air steps down and isn't as selfish about it, or just high and mighty about it, that they won't be friends. And water admires the skill and creativity air has and the potential. Air just doesn't admire it in water. We talked a little bit about water and earth and how Earth doesn't like water, but water is like Earth's awesome. Water is a very loving element. Water and Earth don't usually talk because they know where it's going to go, and it usually leads into this giant debate or discussion, and it might not get passionate, so it actually like legitimately is a debate rather than like an argument or something. But they'll debate everything under the sun, because water wants to make sure Earth's considering it, and Earth has already considered it, so they all have their own ideas. that reason Earth and water don't usually talk, and as long as they're not talking, everything's fine. Earth doesn't need water. Water's crazy and wild in their schemes and plans and everything. Earth doesn't need that. They like a simple, basic core. They're doing just fine on their own, slow moving, but leaps and bounds forward paced. Water can get into the crevices of Earth's foundation, which is amazingly fun for water. They love like getting into your head, which of course is really bad to Earth and to all the other elements that this happens to. They view it as annoying and disrespectful, and water loses what few friends they have over this horrible thing that they love to do. Water is corrosive to Earth, which is good in sometimes because it can work on Earth after the fact, really slowly without Earth seeming to realize. But Earth doesn't know and water doesn't know, and so it kind of corroses it down to nothing. So they have to learn to back off before Earth is just gone, like forever and ever and ever. Water does not like fire. It's a big issue. Fire loves water. Fire loves everyone, but fire really loves water. Water thinks that fire is uncontrolled and seemingly uncaring about the drama that they cause, which of course leaves them a problem for water, and water's already getting as dry as the Sahara Desert with fire. So they're also a little bit put off by fire's like intense desire to be with them, and it kind of, fire is its own people, and they don't share very many philosophies or principles or viewpoints or anything, so it puts water in a really uneasy spot that they're not comfortable in. And you can see this, water in a pan that's hot, it boils, and the less of it there is, there's this possibility that it just disappears forever. Okay, so in the next video we're going to talk about metal and kind of wrap it up a bit, and then I'll start on the next set of personality traits. There's another one that's relatively important, but we'll discuss that next time.